one Eric Wood is joining us as he made it safely back to his home. He drove back from Kansas City to Louisville last night after the game, and he joins us now. Bills radio color analyst and host of the Centered on Buffalo podcast. So, Eric, good to have you with us. Glad you got home safe and sound. Maybe your overarching thoughts on how this game unfolded and, where you might rank the Bills' level of play, the Chiefs' level of play, and the officials' involvement in the outcome of the game.
Yeah, I'll say this. I mean, it's a tough one. It's a tough one today, because the opportunity was there. And if you would have said we can get the ball back with 3 minutes and 30 seconds left and all of our timeouts, and we're down 3 with a chance to go tie it or win it, you might take that and just roll the dice and say our offense can go make a play in this situation, especially if we've already scored 29 points. So you feel like the defense for Kansas City would be susceptible to give up points. I'll say this. The Bills started off bad, both sides of the ball. So you go 3 and out to start the game on offense. Josh did not look in rhythm at all to start that game. I didn't mind the first play call. You have, Josh with a, QB read, but he's going to his right. So if he wants to throw that left shoulder in there, kind of get settled into the game. Josh has said before he likes taking a shot early in the games to kind of settle himself down. So they give him one on first down, and then 2 bad decisions, not great throws on the next 2. Lucky to not have an interception. You punt the ball away and you give up 7 points. Just a nightmare start. But, something that's been kind of synonymous with this team throughout the years, their resilience, the way they fight, and they fight all the way back in it to where they take the lead in the second half and put themselves in a position to win it. But, I just had Ryan Fitzpatrick on my Centered on Buffalo podcast, and we were talking about, how each team played, and you almost feel like if the Bills would have won that game last night, you would almost feel like they stole one. Now, they had injuries in the secondary, but, beyond James Cook, was there a position group that outplayed a position group on the Chiefs? And I'm not sure there was. And so, it's tough that you end the season in that way at Kansas City again, but it just didn't feel like, and I didn't go into the game thinking that the Chiefs had overall this physically better team than the Bills. But at the end of the day, some of the matchups they were able to attack and all that led to the Bills losing. And I'll get to the officials in 1 second. I also think what a gutsy call by Spags on 4th and 5 with the game on the line. You blitz a corner, which because of the reduced set by the receiver, you were able to do that. It's only a 5-man protection, so you can fire him. There's no running back to get him if you fool the O-line and the quarterback on the protection scheme. But look, if you're a defensive coordinator and you run a corner blitz in that situation and we have a beater on that side, you might be fired today if they lose that game. Andy Reid might say, enough's enough, Spags. You're out of here. Like, we can't have those types of calls. Instead, he's the hero again. And so that's unfortunate that didn't work out, and we weren't able to work it back to Shakir, maybe, who likely was the hot throw on the play. And then, Kincaid doesn't come down with it, but that's a tough play in that situation. It is what it is. Should he make the catch? Yeah, I mean, he said it after the game in the locker room, so I'll go with him. But in the moment, we weren't thinking, it didn't feel like the Mark Andrews play from a week ago. And then the officiating last night was frustrating. It's been frustrating a lot this season, but you had the Cole Bishop play where the ball hit the ground. That goes in Kansas City's favor. On the QB sneaks, I believe Josh got the 4th and 1. It looked like it. I've seen still frames of it. I've also seen still frames of the alignment of the defense, and it looked like the way they were able to stop the sneak was the guy to the right of the center. So the QB sneak always goes to the left. The guy to the right of the center would line up essentially off sides and just barrel in to Connor McGovern's side so that he would get washed into the mix and not make it as easy of a sneak for Josh Allen. So thought it could have been a penalty before the play on Kansas City based upon their alignment, and then I thought Josh got it. But ultimately, you just can't let it come down to a call like that.
Yeah, and there was an answer even on the 4th and 5 where he tried to get it to Kincaid. Shakir was uncovered out to the right, but Josh, because the play got there so fast, Josh would have had to almost sprint to that side and just kind of shovel it to him. He instead runs to his right and can't find Shakir. Shakir would still be running, and that really would have changed the game. So the answers were there in that play, even against that blitz, but because the pressure got there so fast, Josh had had no way to make it happen.
Yeah, you're right. And you expected, because there was a timeout before the play, you expected Spagnuolo to fire a blitz on that play. And unfortunately, I heard Connor McGovern say after the game he wishes he would have sent the protection that way. But corner blitzes for a center, I mean, those are almost impossible unless we have some type of tell, like we have a shaded nose where there shouldn't be a shade here. Okay, what's fishy over to this side? But unless there's an indicator like that, it's really difficult for a center and even a quarterback to pick up that the corner is going to come in that situation. And Reed ends up coming free as well. It turns into like a free safety corner blitz, and they got him. But I'm with you. He had the answer to Shakir the other way, but I don't know what Josh's progression is there. So it's so easy for me to sit here today and say, well, if you swing that one out to Shakir, he's able to get 6 yards at least, continue the drive. But I don't know what his progression is there.
Yeah.
Right.
And as admirable as it is that they're able to erase an 11-point deficit, climb back into this game, and actually take the lead at one point in the second half, when you look at the thing in totality, you can find bits and pieces of this game where Buffalo's execution wasn't at the same level as Kansas City's, who was pretty buttoned up from front to back. Yes, Brian Cook should have had an interception that he dropped. They had the fumbled exchange on the read option play with Mahomes, and that led to a turnover. There might be one other play where they did not look like they had it all lined up. I think there was a miscommunication on a pass play with Mahomes and a receiver. Outside of that, I mean, the execution by the Chiefs was airtight, and for the Bills, it wasn't. And in games like this, that can mean all the difference.
You're right. And it just looked easier throughout for the Chiefs. It did. And some of that's the injuries in the secondary. And early on in the game, the Bills were running some zone defense, and you were seeing those play action quick hitters, and then Bills would get the man, and then whether it's an audible or play call prior, they're getting to those rub routes, and they were giving the Bills fits on those rub routes at the second level, in man-to-man coverage. So it just seems like they had the answers built in throughout the night. And I'll give the Bills defense credit. When the game was on the line, they got the stop down in the red zone and forced them to just kick a field goal. Give them credit there. There's a number of plays they made throughout the day. They forced back-to-back punts to start the second half, which were absolutely necessary when you hadn't forced a punt in 6 quarters. And so you get in the locker room, you regroup, and you force back-to-back punts, one of them being a 3-and-out, and they lead to points for the Bills, and you're able to take the lead. But ultimately, and they were put in some bad positions last night too, based upon, Chiefs take over after the failed sneak attempt at the 40-yard line. They had the long punt return, but it just seemed easier for the Chiefs throughout the game last night to move the ball offensively.
Yeah, and this is a Chiefs team that this kind of goes by the wayside because we're the Bills fans, and this team has been on the wrong side of it for 4 years in a row. But they're 2 overtime AFC Championship game losses away from going to 7 straight Super Bowls. It's an all-time run that the Bills are trying to interrupt, and once again are a hair's breadth away from getting it done. Put into context how unbelievable this Chiefs decade or this last 7-8 years has been for this team. Can you even contextualize it?
It's tough to. The thing that almost impresses me most is, yes, there's constants. There's constants in Travis Kelce and Chris Jones, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes. There's constants there, but there's also so much movement around them. Patrick Mahomes early on, it's Tyreek Hill, it's Mecole Hardman, it's these speedsters on the outside that put so much pressure on you, and then they run the ball when you spread everybody out on your defense. And then it turned into, okay, well, we're going to trade away Tyreek Hill, put all those resources into the defense. We're going to go have a top 5 defense now. Patrick, you need to elevate everyone else's play offensively. Yes, Kelsey's still there, but, and then they invested a lot of capital into their interior offensive line. 2nd-round draft pick at center. They have 2 of the best guards in the league now. Trey Smith was a great draft pick, later-round draft pick for them. But, where does Patrick Mahomes hate pressure? Right up the middle. Okay, we're going to try and give him the best interior line in football, and they likely have. And so it's amazing how they've evolved this thing. And then It just, the thing that impresses me most and what sucks about a day like today is you got to start all the way back over. Yeah. You don't get to start in the wild card round. You don't get to start in the divisional round. And Steve, I know I'm preaching the choir with you because, the resilience that you guys had to 3 times get off the mat and get back to the Super Bowl is unbelievable because, you're gutted on a day like today. And at this point, yes, I'm a former player and I have strong relationships on the team, but I'm the color commentary guy. I do content for the Bills organization, and I'm gutted. Imagine the guys in the locker room, the coaching staff, the front office that put so much time and effort into it, and you got to start over. That's the hardest part. And with the Chiefs, what's so impressive is they come off of a Super Bowl championship and do it. It's like there's no contentment there, and they get better and better. And at this point, there's almost a comfort level, I'm sure, in these big games because they've just been there so many times. And where we're talking about slow starts, they're saying, here we go, business as usual.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about the one-possession games because they've now won 17 one-possession games in a row. That's an NFL record, and it's still intact right now. So they just feel comfortable in those moments. I wanted to get your perspective on this because I was trying to explain to a couple of people that I felt like the Bills, because of the slow start, spent the rest of the game chasing the game. And I wasn't able to explain it eloquently enough in terms of the extra effort that players have to put forth when you are chasing the game and trying to make up a deficit. It's almost like you're not just playing the opponent, but you're playing the scoreboard and trying to fight, scratch, claw, and strain to make enough plays just to climb back even. Can you just kind of, from a player perspective, explain, what extra effort is involved when you're chasing the game?
Yeah, you find yourself down 11 in the first half, and you have one possession before the half, and the Chiefs are going to get the ball coming out of the half. You're looking at yourself thinking, okay, this isn't do or die right now, but it's pretty close to it. We need to make a play. Credit to the Bills, they do. They put a nice drive together, and then Mac Hollins comes up with a great touchdown grab. Josh put that ball on the money. I saw the Bills put something out. He had 0.5 yards of separation there. And so, all that being said, you feel like in that moment, like the game's almost on the line, but it's only the second quarter. And so it puts pressure on you. And then you add in the crowd noise and the difficulty in communication. It just becomes an emotionally and obviously physically stressful game based upon the slow start. Give the Bills credit, though. They were getting gashed in the run game early. Then they completely shut down the run in the second half. The Bills started executing, way better fairly early in the first half and then got back to their run game to start the second half, go on a 12-play scoring drive where the one play is a screen they throw off of a run play. It was just a little quick hitter because Kansas City stacked the box. So give the Bills credit the way they were able to adjust. But yes, when you start the game off as bad as they did, you're in the second quarter and you feel like it's almost do or die.
And you get in there where the stuff happens, the score comes down the way it does. The Bills, both teams score 4 touchdowns. They score 1 field goal, and the difference is in 2-point conversions. And it comes down, when those conversions happen, when they're not, and I was all on board with both of them. The analytics say you're 50-50 on fourth down on 2-point conversions. If you try 8 of them, you're going to make 4 of them and miss 4 of them. Well, if you miss one, that means like you're due, right? So I get it.
Those analytics are based off of the league averages, not the number 2 scoring offense in the league with a unicorn at quarterback.
That's right.
I'm with you.
I was totally on board with both those decisions, and I'm shocked they couldn't get one of those. And I'll say this too, Eric. And I'm all about the play selection and all the red zone. That's a player's miss right there. The 2-point conversions are players, I think, both on defense and on offense. You got to make a play. The play is designed. It's going to work. There's no space. You got to do what you got to do, and it comes down to you guys up for the big guys up front, and if you're going to run it or if you're going to throw everything. And the play selection being what it was, you just got to know you're going to have a chance to do it. And those two missed 2-pointers, you come down to a game like that. That's it. That's the difference in the game.
No doubt. And I mean, even as for those watching along with us, watching these QB sneaks, I mean, I don't know what kind of preparation they did, what kind of talks they had, but this was an automatic play for the Bills. 21-22 on the season. Kansas City hasn't stopped a QB sneak attempt in their last 32 attempts prior to this game. And I don't know what they did game planning wise, how much attention they put into this, but really when you look at it, between the 2-point conversion and the failed 4th and 1 attempt, I mean, that's a lot of the game came down to QB sneak attempts. Yeah. And it's, give them credit for executing in those instances. I mentioned it earlier. I don't know all the ins and outs of how they coached how to get that done, but with Josh always going left, it looked like on the still frame that I saw from the aerial view, they were lining up and they were saying, look, press the line up off sides if you have to, because make them call it, because both teams are crowding the line. So a lot of times, as long as you're not touching somebody, they don't call it in that situation. And so they taught to just barrel into Connor McGovern's side and try and just tighten all the gaps on that side just based upon using his momentum. That's the only thing that really stuck out to me, other than they had guys going low up front and guys going higher in the back. And, me and Brownie were talking about in the broadcast, like, well, what do you do off of that to get them? Well, you can't do the push look because you're too crowded there at quarterback. You almost have to get to the QB sneak out of a regular looking under center set. So then you don't have to push anymore, but then it's not as obvious and you could always get to the run.
Yeah. Or just spread everybody out and give Josh more space to work out on the edges somewhere. Yeah, they were complaining about Chris Jones lining up in the neutral zone on those plays, and that's why they even went to that hard count late to try to get him to jump. He didn't. So that's that. Eric, thanks for your input all season long. We appreciate it, and we'll catch up with you down the line here in the offseason. Enjoy the downtime now that the season's complete, sir.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's always fun coming on with you guys, having some fun, start off the week.